Have Cigar will travel. Guys, welcome to the show. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz today. Be sure you find us on YouTube, wherever it is you find us. Just look for Tony Katz. Tony Katz in the morning news. Tony Katz today. I do a whole bunch of stuff. This is the diligence that we're smoking. We're talking to Ed Morrissey right there. There's a little sneak preview. There's Ed Morrissey. And there he goes. Just like that. We'll be talking to him on the show in just a minute. The New York Times. I don't know what's going on. I think this is me. I'm having an issue with the cigar. The New York Times has decided that they want to prove that media is just another word for nothing left to lose. No, for progressivism. That's what it is. And it's been a rough week for them, exposed in a lot of ways. And you would think that I've been talking about the whole Tony Hinchcliffe Puerto Rico story. And the left has overplayed their hand here. This is a different level of overplay. This is a real kind of stunning look into how, to quote Michael Walsh, they never rest, they never quit, they never sleep. And the story about how the New York Times just tried aggressively to disparage conservatives in new media, to try and get them gone from new media. It's a horrific and stunning story that requires attention. Ed Morrissey has done some great work on this, writing about it. I'm going to share the story with you. I'm just making sure I've got everything set up for the show. So we will get in to that, and then we may dig into the Puerto Rico stuff, but I think one of the bigger stories, because the Puerto Rico stuff is their story, is how we now have a third newspaper, if not a fourth newspaper, that are not endorsing in this race. They're just like, we're out. Which means that if Trump is what they say, a fascist and a Nazi, and you're a Nazi, and your mother's a Nazi, I need a little springtime for Hitler from the producers here, they would rather endorse no one than endorse Kamala Harris against him. We're about to start the show. I'm glad you guys are here. Let me see if I can light this up a little bit more. Let's get to the radio show, shall we? The New York Times has long not been interested in journalism, and the idea that they're all the news that's fit to print is mythology. It has been for a good long time, and we can make this argument about journalists and journalism as a whole. Now, this is not to say that every journalist is a bad journalist. If you work for the New York Times, they still may have good people, although many of them have left. Same thing is true with the Washington Post and a host of other places. And sometimes we see local reporting, we're like, that's excellent work, and we cheer it and we applaud it. But we expect that the journalists are in the business of telling the story, giving us the data, and letting us come to our own conclusions. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore, as we see more and more and more outlets saying they're not going to endorse in this election. And that has got the left so unbelievably angry that the Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos, saying that they aren't going to endorse a presidential candidate in this election, has cost them 200,000 subscriptions, digital subscriptions. That's a whole bunch of subscriptions. Tony Katz today. Great to be with you. That right there is Ed Morrissey. He is the capo di tutti capo over at hotair.com. He has been writing about this. Newspapers like mine, according to Jeff Bezos, killed reader trust. And the New York Times says, hold my beer. I first saw this morning on social media from Tucker Carlson, where the New York Times reaches out to him. Hey, we're running this article and we're utilizing as our data Media Matters for America. Care to comment about why you're a racist and a bigot and this and that and the other? And Tucker's response was, and I'm quoting here, blank you, amongst other things. And then you find out they did the same thing to Ben Shapiro. And they did the same thing to a host of people who are maybe popular, not necessarily conservative, in the world of new media. And you're like, they really, after realizing how much they're not trusted, their answer is triple down. It's like the Chinese on communism after watching Libya, Gaddafi fall, after watching the fall of the Russians. It wasn't, hey, let's step away from this and let's try and lead a freer life. Let's get more into it. That's what's happening here. Give us the story of what happened with the New York Times and these conservative outlets.
Well, Tony, I mean, first off, I think Jeff Bezos did something brave. He acknowledged reality. And there's a lot of people that are speculating. Jeff Bezos, of course, also owns Amazon. He owns the Washington Post. Yeah. That's sort of his hobby. The Washington Post is sort of that's his little hobby farm. The big farm, of course, is Amazon and Amazon Web Services, which does a lot of business with the government. And so people are saying, well, he's doing it to protect, government contracts. Well, possibly true, but it's also true that the mass media has lost trust, or has lost the trust of their consumers. And Gallup's data has been showing this for years and years and years. It's been declining for the last 40 years. And right now, I kid you not, they are double digits below politicians in terms of public trust. And I am not kidding about that. You look at Gallup, and politicians get 45% either great trust or a fair amount of trust, and the mass media gets 31%. They are the lowest rated institution in Gallup's poll. And he's saying, this is on us. We've done this to ourselves by being biased.
And he's right to say so. And you're right. It is brave of him to do in this environment. Anybody who should say, guys, we're failing here is really involved in getting into a fight, not only maybe with their newsrooms, but with their editorial staff, because their editorial staff isn't in the news business. They're in the shaping narrative business, which brings us to this New York Times story that they were trying to get information on. Walk us through it.
So they're trying to get information on Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro. I think Benny Johnson was on the list, and some other people that are known in alternative media, independent media, for supposed misinformation about the 2020 election and some other nonsense stuff. And so they sent over a note to Tucker Carlson and to Ben Shapiro talking about, well, we've seen 268 things that you said that were false. And you've got, 6 hours to respond to me before we go live with this tomorrow morning, sort of thing. And I mean, it's a nonsense thing to do. And Tucker Carlson rightly called them out on that. He just simply posted the text chain, and that was it. He just posted that on X. Ben Shapiro sort of went on a multi-tweet rant on X with the same exact type of text that he got from Nico Grant over the New York Times. They're using Media Matters for America, which is a partisan outfit, which is explicitly trying to get conservative voices deplatformed off the internet.
Now, let's hold on. Before we go any further, people might not be familiar with Media Matters. Talking to Ed Morrissey of hotair.com. Media Matters has gone after me. I don't know if Media Matters has gone after you.
It's been a while, but yes, yeah.
Media Matters was started by a guy named David Brock, who David Brock was a conservative back in the day until he realized there was money in them thar hills and became this outlandish and outrageous progressive. Media Matters was built to go after Fox News specifically. That was his entire modus operandi. When he realized there was money in going after anybody who's on the political right, they made that shift into doing just that. Media Matters is known for cherry picking, selecting, not giving the full story, not giving a full picture.
Cooking things up, Tony. I mean, they're currently being sued by Elon Musk for fraud and tortious interference with their advertisers for cooking up a scheme by which extremist ads were placed next to advertiser content for one brief moment in time, because they themselves created the algorithmic circumstances that would allow that. Then they screenshotted it and said, "Oh, look, this is what happens on Twitter. Elon Musk is putting extremist content on advertiser platforms," and advertisers started pulling out. Well, he's suing them over that. I don't know if that's going to be. I don't know if the lawsuit is going to succeed. There's reasons to think it may or may not. But the fact is that's what they did. And that's the type of credibility with which the New York Times is associating itself. It's basically with a chop shop. The New York Times is partnering with a very dishonest partisan hack machine in order to deplatform people that it doesn't like, whose messages they don't like.
Now, I think that people could listen to this conversation, watch this conversation, say, "Oh, you just don't like them because their politics don't align with yours." The point here, and the point you're making with what Jeff Bezos has done, is that a newspaper's politics shouldn't align with anyone. There shouldn't be this alignment of 100%. You shouldn't have people canceling their subscription to the Washington Post because they refuse to endorse the candidate you prefer. And when they say no one, you think that that's a slight to what it is they're supposed to do. This is the New York Times. You know, we talk about abdicating their position, once again doubling down on the abdication of their role as journalists. So is it any wonder that they are not respected? When you talk about double digits below Congress, what is it that people still see in what it is they offer?
Well, it's basically, I think, a bubble. They have a particular audience, and the particular audience is a bubble of progressives that want to be reinforced. And look, I mean, there's bubbles all over the place, right? There's conservative bubbles, and that's fine. But conservative bubbles exist around people who are opining on conservatism, on politics. And I think it's incumbent on everybody to make sure that you're getting good data before you opine. This isn't what this is, though. This is the New York Times trying to pass off as fact-based reporting a research that's being done by a partisan hack group that has no credibility whatsoever, rather than doing it themselves. Look, if Nico Grant had said, "I'm going to sit down and go through Tucker Carlson's 2-week thing myself and mark down and fact check stuff, and then go get back to him and say, this is what I found," I mean, that's legit. That's a legit thing to do for a newspaper to do. But that's not what they're doing here. What they're doing is they're basically partnering up with a known partisan outfit that has already demonstrated that it manipulates algorithms, and it manipulates the situation to paint people in the worst possible light, and then try to get them deplatformed for that. That's what the New York Times is partnering with. That's not a newspaper. That's an activist group. The New York Times is an activist group where reporters are occasionally employed. That's the takeaway from this.
So I'm going to quote a friend of ours, Fingers Malloy, who, of course, I do eat, drink, smoke with, and I think an underappreciated brain in our space.
I agree.
He once explained that when people discussed the idea that social media was going to put an end to traditional media, TV and newspapers, he said no. What they're going to do, and what they have been doing, was they'll take a tweet from this person, or a post, and a tweet from that person, and then they'll write a whole story about that to fit their narrative. And what they have done, what old media has done with new media, has found the symbiotic relationship in being able to take one thing and make it the column inches. Like, for example, the entire rally at Madison Square Garden, and the only thing they'll talk about is one joke from Tony Hinchcliffe about Puerto Rico. They won't tell about the joke about Jews or about Palestinians or this one or that one. No, they'll only talk about this. They don't talk about the 20,000 people. They don't talk about the tens of thousands of people outside. They don't talk about Muslims and Jews being inside, and Israeli flags everywhere. Jews were rapping tefillin. No, they talk about this, and therefore they can get away with it. So this, what you are sharing here, is very much in part with what Fingers has discussed, this idea that the objective is to utilize any nugget in order to move approved narrative. And we can, I think from this story, can we say without any hesitation, as if somehow we couldn't before, that that this is just an approved narrative? That's all it is?
Well, I think it's worse than that. They're focusing on YouTube because they want to get YouTube to deplatform these people. That's the whole point of focusing on YouTube. I mean, if you're going to go after Ben Shapiro, you talk about the Daily Wire, right? The Daily Wire, it's a great outfit that he's running, and he owns it. And so you'd say, well, the Daily Wire is less than reliable, right? Okay, that's fine. That's two media companies butting heads, and that's the kind of competition that we'd actually kind of cheer on. But that's not what they're doing. They're going after the YouTube channels because they want to deplatform or demonetize these people so that they can't operate any longer. If you cut the money off, they wither and die.
Right.
It's true for any business. And that's what they're aiming after. And they're doing it 1 week before a national election, which I just find completely despicable and very, very telling about what this entire operation is about. From the New York Times.
4 indictments in a year and an election year. Interfering in an election seems to be par for the course. Ed Morrissey, HotAir.com. Well, I still have a couple minutes. Let's get into this idea of the lack of endorsements. The Washington Post doesn't endorse, and the LA Times does not endorse. Now USA Today does not endorse, even though it's Kamala Harris running against the quote-unquote fascist Nazi. This despicable terminology that has to be pushed back on in every way, shape, or form. What do you take from the non-endorsements?
I mean, the whole thing's a fugazi, right? It's all a false narrative. The hysteria over, the dark night of fascism descending over America. This is just a narrative which is intended to shore up turnout among the progressive base, which apparently they're very worried about, because even USA Today isn't buying it. And they had broke a string 4 years ago to endorse Joe Biden. They didn't endorse presidents before that because they found Trump so dangerous. Well, it's still the same Trump. And now they're not going to endorse Kamala Harris. They're going to sit this one out. That tells you that they don't see him as a big enough danger to intervene. The Nation let its interns write a non-endorsement of Kamala Harris. The Nation. Now, The Nation is a venerable progressive publication. It's great. They have their audience, and I think that they do. I think that they have some integrity over there based on what it is, what their mission is. They're an opinion site, and they're an advocacy site, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if they really believed that Trump was a fascist and a Nazi who was going to take over the government and that was going to be the end of elections, the Nation's editors would never have let their interns write that non-endorsement or unendorsement of Kamala Harris 3 days ago. Never would have happened.
Ed Morrissey, HotAir.com. Ed, do me a favor. Stay right there. Stay right where you are. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. This is Tony Katz Today. Ed, let me bring you right back for everybody who's on the live stream. A little bit extra with Ed Morrissey. I might have some theme music. Don't ever dance like Donald Trump again. Ever. Here, I have some theme music for Ed. What's not playing? Oh, that's too bad. There we go. I think I can get it. Right now. I don't know if you can hear it, Ed. It's the Kamala Harris.
It's Kamala Harris. Oh, it's cackling. Okay, I got you.
Before I let you go, well, I've got 60 seconds. The Hinchcliffe thing, this Puerto Rico joke, which one of the trades, radio trades that I get referred to him as wannabe comedian. And I wrote them back. I'm like, you're out of your mind. He's not wannabe comedian. He's outrageously popular. Politico writes that this story is running like wildfire through Pennsylvania and it's going to affect the election. Ed Morrissey, this affecting the election?
Nah. Even to the extent that there's room for criticism here, it would have been just, why do you have an insult comic on your rally, 9 days out from an election for your rally? I would have just skipped the comedy altogether and said, let's just stick with focused messaging and do that. Trump's an entertainer, and I guess he thought it would be fun to do that. But that's the extent of the criticism. This is what this guy does. And Jon Stewart, I think, I don't know if you saw the clip from Jon Stewart. He pushed back pretty effectively on it today, saying, you don't put Tony Hinchcliffe up there unless you're going to let him do his comedy. And that's what this was. It was comedy. It didn't land. I think what's interesting is it really didn't land.
And the audience said so as well. And his response said so as well. But I think it's a great example of here is the vast majority of people on the political right saying, yeah, it wasn't a great joke. Move on. And here's the left saying we desperately need something to connect with and to connect America with. But the idea that it's spreading like wildfire across Pennsylvania, 457,000 Puerto Rican voters, I don't buy that one. Ed Morrissey, HotAir.com. I appreciate you as always. Appreciate you guys. For sure. We've got some more radio to get to. I can't believe the issues I'm having. This is going to be my humidor. I don't know what I have done to this cigar to prevent this. Also, a lot going on, including understanding the election in 3 bourbons. If you have not heard about it, the big event, November 14th, understanding the election in 3 bourbons, tickets.tonykatz.com. We're going to sell out in the next couple of days. Tickets.tonykatz.com. They went on sale last week. They have sold fantastic. I'm thrilled and overjoyed. We're going to drink bourbon. We're going to smoke cigars that don't have an issue. And we're going to talk about the election. We're going to break down the election results. We're going to share the data. We're going to laugh. I've got fantastic food coming. These massive charcuterie boards, meat and cheese, people, and pork sliders, because there's a great barbecue place here called Big Hoffa's Barbecue, and love those guys and happy to work with them. And sides, and I've got desserts from Circle City Sweets, Premier Arms and PA Jewelers are our sponsors, along with Hoosier Security and Paramount Operating Solutions, and doing this, of course, with my home station in Indianapolis at WIBC. They've been helping out. Going to be a fantastic event. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Tickets.tonykatz.com right there. Get your tickets before it's like, because I mean, when I say they're going to sell out, if we get through the end of the day and we're not sold out, I may be shocked. I may very, very well be shocked. Producer Landon, how much time do we have? All right, so we're going to get more into the show. So some news coming out. And then in the next hour, if you're listening at WIBC.com, we're going to talk about this overplaying their hand. I have long discussed how the political left overplays their hand. Even when they can move a message, they overdo it to such a degree that they lose the message, and it's purposeful. And it must be, or either that, or they just simply have no way to control themselves, to control the message, which is weird because they dominate the messaging so well, but they're not able to just be cool, honey bunny. They can't just remain calm. Hit something, let it grow naturally and organically, and leave it be. They pound it to a point of exhaustion. And then nobody's actually interested in it anymore. We're back to the show. Let's get to it. Steve Bannon is out of jail. You don't know any progressives who'd go to jail for Joe Biden. You don't. You absolutely, positively do not know any progressives who would say, I'll go to jail because I'm not going to listen to a congressional subpoena. Then again, if Democrats didn't listen to a congressional subpoena, they wouldn't go to jail, right? That would not be a problem for them. Tony Katz today. Guys, good to be with you. Find everything at tonykatz.com. I assume he's going to be doing his show today. I assume he's going to pick up where he left off. I don't know Steve well. I knew Steve more back in the day when he first took over a Breitbart. I didn't like the direction that it moved, but he was always very nice to me, and I only hope I was very, very nice to him. He was once accused of being, when he was in the White House, being an anti-Semite. I said, this is insane. And I know people who have real issues with him, and they were like, this is insane. He's a lot of things. That's just not it. But went to jail. There's nobody on the left who would go to jail. Well, they wouldn't be sent to jail. You understand that that's the story. When you say that left wouldn't be sent to jail, that's not like some kind of loftier version of people. It's about how things are applied. Certainly how many Americans see it. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. I am thrilled you were here as part of the live stream. I guess we got to do this more often. It is. I am just now. I'm convinced. Now I'm just convinced. And always, you guys can leave comments. You can put comments in anywhere, and I will get them. I appreciate you being a part of what we're doing here. We're going to continue to do this, continue to build this up. And you see this space right here. I'm supposed to put a bookcase right on this right here, but I don't know. We can put a sponsorship thing right here. If you would like to be like I stand, like it'll be right here. It's a very attractive. That is prominent, people. We can do that. Reach out, Tony@TonyKatz.com, and we will get you set up to do just that. Appreciate the support. Follow me on X and Instagram at Tony Katz. You can go to Tony Katz Radio on Facebook. I mean, Facebook stinks, but I am there, of course. And of course, TonyKatz.com. Be a part of what we're doing and get your tickets while you still can to Understanding the Election in 3 bourbons, people. Understanding the Election in 3 bourbons. It's going to be, my bourbon choices are spectacular. I would not, as the guy who hosts Eat, Drink, Smoke, the largest bourbon and cigar radio program in the country, I would not let you down. I definitely wouldn't do that. I hope to see you guys there. I appreciate you guys being with us, and I will catch you very, very soon. This week, we'll do more. Take care.